Well, I keep finding weird crap like this on my doorstep. I don't know who keeps dropping these things off. It's actually in pretty good condition, though. Today we're going to look at a Sylvania black and white set that a fellow club member dropped off. A friend of his has had this since childhood, remembers watching it, and has had it in their basement for a while and was curious to know what it would cost to get the thing fixed. And I gave him a rough idea and what it'd need to, just based on some pictures they emailed me. And I figured I could probably get it working. I initially thought this was a Sylvania Halo Light model because of the surround on the shadow mask. However, this does not have the cold cathode tube nor the electrical connections for it to set up. Apparently some of them did not have this in there but shared the same aesthetic features. Unfortunately, don't know what model this actually is. It's in beautiful condition. The blonde cabinet, hard to see underneath my cat, is actually in really good shape. But I have a problem, one I'm in the middle of trying to solve anyway, and that is, here's the original back of the set here. It's actually in really nice shape. It's too bad they cut off the interlock plug, but the back is in great shape. The problem, this is the model number tag, and this is where the model number should be. And I'll be damned if I can find any data on these Sylvania sets. I scoured Radio Museum, looked through all their pictures. I could not find a match to this one. And on top of that, almost all of their Sylvania listings are blank. There's no tube data, there's no SAMS references, nothing. But if we can look at the back, and the lighting's not that great here, so let me get my phone. Now, this is a 17-inch set, and I already confirmed that with a tape measure because the schematic, get out of the way. The schematic, or at least the tube chart, shows it should have a 17YP4 picture tube in it. And some folks on the Antique Radio Forum suggested that it could be a 21-inch picture tube because they do have a SAMS photo fact that looks almost identical to this but with a bigger tube. But I double-checked with the tape measure. This is a 17-inch CRT, so I'm still not quite sure, but I want to pull the chassis and do a comparison to the pictures that I was provided with, and I can get the SAMs for that set, and I'm hoping the chassis are more or less the same. These two electrolytic capacitors in here in the same place, everything is the 5U4 rectifier tube, and this uses a 1N105 detector diode for the video detector, which is kind of neat. One thing I do see which is kind of cool actually is the set has plug-in connections, like the speaker plugs in up here on top of the high voltage cage. It looks like the yoke, does this have an electromagnetic focus? Well, either way, we've got these three wires I'm going to guess are the yoke windings, plug into the top of the cage here. And then the rest of them, that one appears to be permanent. No, it looks like it probably does have electromagnetic focus. There's an additional 2-wire plug right back here. But yeah, I am kind of going in the dark here. Now, that's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, I could probably get it running if the CRT is okay. I can probably get it running. My issue is if there are any replaced capacitors under here, which I kind of doubt there are, or if there are any of the bumblebees or any faded colors, I don't really know what value they're supposed to be unless they're printed on the outside. Yeah, the chassis bolts on this are all still in place, amazingly, and all the stickers, I mean, everything is still in here. The warning label on the inside. Interestingly, this appears to have been made by Colonial. The Colonial logo is in here, their little tree, and even the back cover has a note on it that states that the set was manufactured by Colonial. I would have figured Sylvania would have had their own manufacturing capabilities, being that they made tubes, but I guess not. Not for household electronics anyway, they probably contract out. And the CRT is still a Sylvania, so it might be the original. So I'm going to grab my CRT tester. We're going to see if there's any life in this still. Apparently, once this TV used to be the main in their household, and then it was moved to the basement for the boys to watch once they got a new set. Now, I did notice there's one screw missing from the high voltage cage up here, and it is kind of loose. So someone may have been in there. Hard to say. But let me grab the CRT tester and see what we can get. Okay, tester plugged in, hooked up to the CRT. Just tested the heater here, and we do have a visible glow coming out of it. So there's that anyway. Shorts? Nope. That's not great, but again, I only just fired it up, so who knows. But, yeah, that is a little disappointing. Wiggle the socket a little bit. I don't think that's going to help here. This looks to be a completely shot tube. Wow. No, we're at 6.3 on the admissions, or the heater anyway. Absolutely, there's a teeny tiny wiggle. We have nothing on that. Damn. That's kind of disappointing. I mean, I know a guy I can ask about a replacement CRT. I suppose I can look online and see what it would cost to replace one. Because I'd kind of hate to not be able to get this set working, considering how nice shape it is. But let's try turning up the heater a bit. Maybe letting it sit. We'll do about 7 volts or so. Okay, update on the 17YP4 diagnosis. It registered nothing at start. I left it at 7 volts for, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes-ish. And the needle did actually go past bad, just barely into the green, so I backed it off to 6.3. And it's, yeah, I don't know how well you can see that. It's just barely below the good point. This may produce an image. Maybe. I suppose I could slap. I got a few brighteners laying around. I could stuff one of those on there. I kind of don't want to, but I could. As far as cutoff goes, and we do have cutoff. It's in the range of 22 to 72, like the guide states it should be. I toyed with the idea of using the rejuvenator function on it. I actually have used that in the past. I actually used it to get emissions out of my Zenith porthole, although now thinking about it, I probably should have just let it bake. I think that's probably the safest thing to do. Either way, though, now that we actually have a reading, we have cutoff, and the cathode is awake to some degree, I want to pull the chassis out, get my air compressor out, and clean the thing off, because there is a... This is just very light dust. There's no real grime or anything on it. It's very well preserved. So I think we should just be able to blow the whole thing off gently. I'll need to pull the CRT because this thing is ungodly heavy. A very beefy power transformer in here. And I'm sure the CRT is not particularly light in its own right. But yeah, we're going to turn this off here. I just turned down the heater. Let me check something real quick here. I didn't do a life test. The life test, all it does is disconnect the filament, and then it allows you to see how long it takes for the cathode to stop emitting electrons. And the rate at which it drops is, let's see... I can't remember how to use... Gotta go to emissions. Okay. Let's see if I get you on the needle there. And we hold this down. Yeah. Live test ain't great. Now, I already went on to eBay and did a little Googling, and unfortunately, the 17YP4 has only one equivalent, the 17QP4, and I think they also have an A variant. They're both. There's a 17YP4A that's aluminized and 17QP4A for aluminized. I can find neither one of them for sale. The Early Television Foundation lists a few 17-inch rectangular CRTs, but unfortunately none of the ones they have are a 17YP or QP4, and Sylvania's datasheets show that those are the only two tubes that I can use. So this is it. If this one doesn't work, there's really nothing more I can do unless someone happens to have one. I got a buddy that does TVs, and he might have a CRT. I could ask him, but yeah, I want to say that some of the CRTs I've worked on haven't been that good. I mean, I haven't tested all of them. It might still have a picture that's watchable in a dim room, you know, and with a brightener on it, it may work, you know, every once in a while, be able to play, so not the end of the world. But let's see if we can coax some life out of it. Bring it up on the Variac, assuming that there's not exploded debris from the capacitors underneath it. Okay, I broke out the air compressor, I dusted the whole thing off, and this is a really well-preserved set. I gotta say, there's no real oxidation anywhere on the surface of the chassis. All the tubes are present. It is missing one tube shield on the tuner. I probably have one the right size laying around here. All the tubes are present. I looked underneath initially, and it doesn't look like it's had any work done to it. None of the capacitors appear to have been moved or replaced. CRT is very likely the original. Still got the tag on the side of it. All in all, very good shape. There was a screw missing from the high voltage cage, and it was off to the side a little bit, so someone may have been poking around in there at one point. But nothing was missing, and the flyback looks okay. So what I want to do now is flip it around. I'm going to pull the 5U4 rectifier out of it, and we're just going to make sure the power transformer works and see if the tubes light up. So it is, thankfully, a transformer set. And I considered removing the CRT, but it's got a lot of bracketry holding it in place, and the writer's information, I managed to find a schematic for this. Could not find the model number, but some kind folks on the Antique Radio Forum were able to point me towards the writer's Volume 12 TV guide. There was a download for it on World Radio History, and it had a whole slew of stuff for Sylvania, and this chassis is actually stamped on the back and on the front, and on the underside here, it's hard to see, but it says 514-3. Specifically, this chassis is a 1-514-3. I was able to find that in the writers, and so I'm pretty much set. Apparently, this chassis was used with both a 17-inch picture tube as well as a 21. However, I was not able to decipher their model system. It was... yeah, I don't really understand it. So, still don't know exactly what model this is. Probably a model 300 something. But that's neither here nor there. We just want to see if it does anything. So I've got my Variac hooked up. It's actually got 2 fuses on it, which is kind of nice. And power should be that guy right there. And I'm going to turn off some lights here. We're going to gently bring this up. And I appear to be getting glow. Let me turn off the other lights. Yeah, there we go. Let's see the CRT filaments lighting up. Everything else is lighting up. Looks like the driver inside the high voltage cage is lighting up. Yeah. Bring this up to about full line voltage. I don't think we have... Doesn't look like we have any burned out tubes. That's nice. Doesn't mean they're any good. This set was used pretty hard. Some of them might be a little worn out. Okay, cool. Well, the next thing I want to do is pop the rectifier back in. I am going to take the audio output tube out because I do not have the speaker. The speaker's back in the cabinet. Actually, hang on a second. I just thought of something. Because they so kindly provided an RCA jack to the top of the chassis, I'll just use a 4-ohm speaker. Easy peasy. Okay, we'll put that back in. Now, the only thing I don't have is a place to tap off of this to check the B+, now that I think about it. At least not an easy place to do that. Also, the orientation is wrong. If anything does happen, we won't be able to see it. So let me unplug this, and we will reposition it so that the CRT is toward the front. Slightly. Yeah, I don't have a lot of hopes for this thing. I tell you what, I need to get my high voltage probe out. We'll see if we've actually got what is the scale we need to be on? Let's see. Well, let's see if we're actually getting anything. For all I know, the 1B3 could be dead. Well, we are getting something. Let's see, where's the 150 volt scale? Oh, we're getting about 3,500 volts. That's, not quite enough. So, well, I'll see if it increases any if I raise the line voltage. I doubt it. Well, can't quite remember what range I'm on. That might be about 7,000-ish volts that I look to be getting now at about 110 line voltage. But nothing on the screen. If I'm reading it right, we still don't have enough. We should be getting close to 10,000. Now let's see what happens if I kill it. Okay, nothing. So we need to do a little bit of work on it. Kind of figures as much, but it is nice to see we didn't have really obvious hum. So I think what I'll do is I will flip it over and we will take a look at the horizontal and vertical drive sections and see what we can't do about getting that in order, and also looking at what options I have for dealing with the multi-section electrolytics, because there are 3 on this guy. There are 2 here, and there's 1 on the opposite side by the 6x6 audio output tube. So, I'm going to pull that out. Again, this is all in the vain hopes that this CRT is even able of producing anything. I barely got a response on 7 volts off this thing, so who knows. What I need to do now is figure out how I can carefully lay this on its side, because I don't know how sturdy the high voltage cabinet is. It looks fairly decent. Okay, yep, there we go. I've seen plenty of pictures, vintage photos of servicemen doing exactly that. Now, one thing that is really nice with this chassis is everything is in your face, really. I don't know how easy it is to see that on camera, though, but it's only about 2 inches deep back here. There's nothing up in the front. All the components are surface level, all the wax capacitors, and, well, that's a lot of cobwebs. I thought I blew this thing out pretty good, but really there's still some spider nests and stuff in here. But, yeah, it's all wax caps. Big surprise there. On the whole, though, there's nothing buried. It's all very easy to get to, which is great. Honestly, this might be one of those deals where I just go through and I just start replacing these, because they're cheap. It doesn't hurt my feelings to just start swapping them out. But I do want to see where the multi-section electrolytics are. So, okay, we have this one here, which is only a 2-section, which is interesting. We have this one, which appears to have another electrolytic coming off of it. I don't know if that's factory. That's going back to the vertical linearity control. I have a gain control, horizontal hold, horizontal drive. So these guys down here, we're going to want to investigate these. This one's got some blistering going on to it, so I'm going to guess it's been getting kind of warm. That capacitor right there appears to be part of that circuit. So we'll want to focus on this stuff over here for dealing with the horizontal. I don't know where the vertical is, which tubes are being used for that. I'm going to wager that this transformer that's mounted topside, this other one here, vertical is probably in this section because the IF strip runs this way, and then there's audio detection and amplification over here for the FM audio. There is one Black Beauty here, 2 Black Beauties. I expected more, honestly. But yeah, not too shabby. I'll, of course, be checking this against the riders to see if there are any real differences. You can actually see right there, this is a 514 chassis. That's what clued me in, was this, and then it's stamped in big numbers on the front here and on the back. And if it wasn't for that, I'd still be frantically looking for chassis data. They've got those. There should be another multi-section electrolytic just down, yeah, down here. These are interesting because the cutouts in the chassis are square rather than circular, which I haven't seen. This one, it's funny, it has 4 terminals and they're only using 3 of them. Okay. I'll have to look at the values for these. This one's rated at 500 volts, 10 microfarads. Let's see, what's the top side say? If I can even read them, which I really can't. The tallest one is 80 microfarads at 400 volts and 40 microfarads at 400 volts. I probably should have some in that neighborhood. Looks like I'm going to have to be putting an order to Mauser together for the electrolytics because I am blown out of some of my larger values. In the meantime, though, I can probably just start working on the wax guys down here. Alright, take number... I don't remember. A lot of camera glitches. Anyway, got some more work done on the underside of the chassis. I finally managed to get a picture. I'll show you what I get real quick, but what enabled me to get an image was just a little bit of more work in the horizontal zone, some slight luck, and some rejuvenation on the CRT. So one of the first things I did after I tested it initially and I couldn't get any kind of image, I checked the high voltage, checked the B+. I eventually, with it at full line voltage, it does generate enough, about 16,000 volts to the anode for the CRT. That was fine. Couldn't figure out if the electron or the ion trap magnet was quite in the right place. I did manage to align it correctly, so there's that. But the emissions still were pathetic. So I brought the tube tester back out and I hit it with the rejuvenation function, which is kind of hit or miss. Tried the low setting, only brought it up a little bit. I hit it with the medium setting and it actually caused a spark to jump between the tube halves of the electron gun assembly in the tube, but it brought it up into the green. Not a whole lot, but enough that I figured that I should be able to get a usable image out of it. And I did. However, I didn't actually realize the CRT was doing anything until I started playing with the contrast control, which is this guy right here. It's a wire wound, 1,000 ohms, I think. I noticed that if I twisted it, I'd get occasional pops and crackles in the speaker, and I'd occasionally get a horizontal line to flash across the screen. And I wasn't quite sure why at first, and then I looked back at the schematic, my digital copy, and the contrast control is in the... It controls one of the grids to, I think, the video output tube. And the plate circuit for the video output tube is connected to the B+ supply, and then it goes through a 0.22 microfarad capacitor to the cathode of the CRT. But on the other side of that 0.22 and part of the cathode circuit, there is the brightness control potentiometer down here. And that has a connection directly to a 120 volt DC supply, according to the schematic. Now I checked with my meter what I was getting at the terminals here, and I found that with the brightness control turned all the way down, I was getting 180 volts DC, give or take. And with the brightness control all the way to bright, I was getting about 0 because that puts it towards ground potential because the other leg's grounded. And that allows for full brightness. Looking at the schematic, the conclusion I came to is that the 0.22 microfarad capacitor that couples the video output stage, this guy, was most likely leaking, and I was seeing the discrepancy in voltage because the plate circuit of the output tube was actually feeding into the brightness control, and it was basically keeping the tube from getting any kind of video signal through. And sure enough, when I held my finger against this cap, it was physically warm when nothing else in the chassis was. So I swapped that out with these two piggyback 0.1s because I'm all out of 0.22s, and sure enough, I got a display. I have a partial raster, don't have a lot of vertical on it, and I can show you that. I've been warming up the chassis here. And we can bring it up. And I can also show you, we do have pretty good B+. Try and be careful here. I already shocked myself on the anode yesterday. Not a whole lot, it had mostly discharged, but I wasn't as careful as I should have been. So we're at about 100 volts, 101 volts currently. I'm going to turn off some of the overheads here. No, not that one. But we do need to be all the way up at normal operating voltage. The CRT would start glowing probably at about 100 volts if it was fairly new. It doesn't have a lot more life left. I might put a brightener on it, but if it's visible once I get a video signal going into it with the lights on, then I might just leave it alone. The brightener will only shorten the effective remaining lifespan. It'll make it brighter for a shorter period of time, and I don't know how much the customer is thinking of using it, probably just every once in a blue moon, but I mean, I want them to get as much value out of it as they can. Okay, we got a little bit of popping and crackling in the speaker there. I haven't done anything in the audio circuit yet, so who knows about that. And there we go. Let me bring you around here. We're sitting at about, let's see, if I lower it to 110, do I lose it? Yeah, so it's about 115 volts. That puts us at about 300 on the B+ rail. And you can see that our linearity is bad, and we're not filling the screen. I've already moved the magnet around, and I also have moved the one manual control that's sticking out of the back here, which is this guy. That is as far down as it goes. I'm not quite sure what's that doing. That might be the focus. Is that the focus control? I don't know. I'll have to look at the manual again. I'll have to see what I can do about shifting image. My vertical height control, I imagine, is probably not the best. And because it's not an electrostatic set, I don't have a vertical centering control to mess with. It's possible, though, that because I haven't done a whole lot with the vertical part of the circuit, that I just need to go in there and replace those caps. So, but you can see we are at the very end range of the brightness control. There's a few spots in the contrast that are a little iffy. Either way, that's better than I was expecting, and I'm going to keep plugging on with the rest of the set. I want to see if I can get these vertical problems dealt with simply by going further north in the chassis up, because the middle section back here is about where the vertical stuff is, and then up past that is going to be the IF strip, which I don't is not going to require a lot of work because almost everything in there is ceramic disc. So there's that. Okay, I've been diligently plugging away at the rest of the set here. I am down to just 2 remaining paper caps, at least in the deflection circuits. I still haven't touched the sound. I've only got this, I think it's a 0.1 trapped back here, and that one black beauty over here that spans across the terminal strip. Those leads are pretty long and might have to J-hook that together. But I've taken care of everything else. The raster has improved a little bit, but I want to check it again now that I've done these, and I have had this Siamese, a few of these caps. I have no 0.22s, and there were more 0.22 microfarad caps in here than I anticipated. 3 of them, actually, and then a 0.3 that or 0.03 that I absolutely did not have the right parts to make that value, so I used a pair of 0.015s or something to get the exact value. It works, it's fine, I don't love it, but it's the easiest way to make do with what I have. But what I really want to do right now is I've got the electrolytics for this thing on order. This guy right here is actually a 500 volt rated cap, and it needs to be because there is a 510 volt bus in this set. There's quite a few different voltages that it uses in various parts, but this guy right here is connected on the positive side to that bus, and it's only offset from ground by maybe 2,000 ohms, so it's not seeing the entirety of that, but it's darn close. So I need to make sure to order one fairly close to that value. And then some of the goofier values for the multi-sections, an 80 and a 40. For this guy, there's a few of them here that are rated at about 200 volts down in the audio. The audio section has the 3-section going on. These two should be fairly easy. I'll have to do some reorganization down in that spot. But place the cap up here on the vertical linearity control, and the connections coming off the IF strip. So the vertical section should be done except for those two, and I know I have a fairly full raster, so I've got my generator, my pattern generator hooked up to the set, and I want to see if we can't get a signal for it, or through it, rather, because I'm going to check on some other sets here soon, so I've gotten through about as much as I want to deal with for today. And I'll pick this up in the next video when the new caps arrive, and I'll finish off the rest of it. But I want to verify that we actually have a signal coming through it. Yeah, see, that's the maximum height that I can get. Try the linearity control. Now it almost looks like we're getting something. Let me try adjusting the channel control here. Oh, yeah, we are. Actually, there's my crosshatch pattern. Let's see, where is vertical hold? Okay. Whoops. We're holding that way correctly. Let's try horizontal. Ignore that. The contrast is just wrong. Is it the contrast? What am I set to? Bars? No, I'm set on crosshatch. It doesn't look quite right. Not sure what the deal is there. They're certainly very chunky in the middle. Where's the linearity control? Alright. And just twiddling with the fine tuning here, see if I can't make it look big and better. Because the vertical lines are not quite right. But yes, we are getting a signal through, which is nice. I just set it to horizontal lines. That seems to do okay. If I set it to vertical lines, though, they're rather chunky. I still think we have a problem with the vertical deflection not being quite on point. But again, there's still a few caps that I haven't messed with. See, that's the automatic gain control. Okay. Go back to crosshatch. Nope, still looks like crap. Well, okay, what can you do? 4 originally. Huh. Well, that's pretty good. That at least tells us the IF strip is functioning. That's better than I hoped for. So, I'm going to call it there. I'm going to wait for the rest of my parts to come in. I'll probably still do a little more recapping work. But I'll wait for the caps to come in order to finalize it. In the meantime, I need to take a look at a pair of projects that just came in that are going to be the immediate follow-up to this Sylvania here. Once again, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.